But it's hard for us to want to admit that we're high risk because nobody wants to look at the mirror and go, yep, I'm high risk, all right. But yet, if you are going to protect yourself financially, you have got to understand where you fall along that credit score line. I'm not saying the credit score is the end all be all, but what I am saying is if you are going to protect your finances and protect your family, your loved ones, your significant, whatever, if you're going to protect them, the first thing, in my opinion, one of the first things that you need to do is you need to honestly identify, honestly assess, where are you at in the credit game? Because if you know you are high risk, then you know right away, or you should know, or you will know after watching this channel, the loan sharks are after you. Happy Sunday afternoon, everyone. Okay, it's September 22nd. It's about 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time by the time this gets uploaded. It'll probably be hitting about 6 p.m. So happy Sunday. If you don't see this till Monday, have a wonderful Monday. All right, so we are going to look at a Scripps News story that ran 3 days ago. It's titled, "This Auto Loan Practice is Leaving Borrowers Deep in Debt." Now then, before we begin, it's not surprising when we hear in the news anymore that someone has $1,000 month car payment, $700 month car payment for 6, 7, 8 years. This doesn't surprise us anymore. What also is happening, as you know, is repossessions. Auto repossessions are higher than ever. But in the midst of all of that, there's also a group of people who are trying to refinance their cars. They're trying to save them. So we're going to listen to a story about a woman. She's divorced, has 3 kids, and basically she's trying to save her vehicle. The question becomes how much of her financial situation is her fault and how much of it is the company's fault. I'll let you, determine that on your own. But it's important that we understand we are going to take a critical look at this because, as you know, if you have followed this channel, I don't believe we can set ourselves debt-free. I don't believe we can set ourselves on the financial track that is going to benefit us if all we do is make excuses or put our head in the sand about the money decisions that people are making. So, well, this is not meant to be critical. It is meant to be honest. All right. So we're going to go ahead, take this screen down. I'd like to also thank my new subscribers. I hope you find a wonderful home here. I'm so glad to have you. And of course, all of those that have been with me this entire time. You already know we're family. You already know that. All right, folks. Thanks so much for being here. Let's hit it.
When Jessica Patterson became a single mom of 3 young kids, she knew she couldn't make it work without buying a car.
My whole life depended on it. It was going in and getting a car or not be able to take my kids to the medical appointments and services that my special needs child needed.
So she headed to this used car lot outside Kansas City where a saleswoman pointed her to a Kia Rio priced at $15,000.
Okay, we could say Kia, $15,000. That's not, I wouldn't consider that overly inappropriate. Mom with 3 kids. There's probably a chance that, depending upon her income, remember I've only skimmed this video, so I've not heard it word for word. It might still be a little bit too high, but overall, for what cars are today, you can't go screaming that that $15,000 is totally unreasonable.
With a $12 an hour job as a receptionist and no savings, Patterson knew she'd need a loan.
Let me backtrack. $12 an hour job as a receptionist with 3 children and no savings. All right. I think it's easy to say that the only people that are going to lend to her are high-risk companies. Now, again, we're going to take a critical look, okay? Having 3 children on a $12 an hour job, and she's divorced. Now, there are a couple of things I'm thinking of. Is that, was she a stay-at-home mom? Okay, her husband was making all the money and she was a stay-at-home mom. Now they are divorced. My question, and I don't know if they're going to talk about, her relationship, okay? But I'm assuming this, divorced, okay? But if she was a stay-at-home mom and the husband made the money, then why is she not getting child support or more child support? Something's not adding up. You can't raise 3 kids on $12 an hour successfully.
She put my information in this little computer. It was like bloop, 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 and then Exeter came and flashed across the screen.
Exeter.
Exeter.
This is a company I've never heard of, Exeter. I didn't hear of Exeter until this report.
Exeter Finance, based in Texas, is one of the largest auto lenders in the nation, specializing in subprime loans.
For those who may not know, subprime loans are for those people. They're the loans given to those people who are high risk. And if there's a definition of high risk, from what we can tell so far, she's definitely it. Single mom, 3 kids, $12 an hour, no savings. In all honesty, she cannot afford a car at all. I know, and people go, but how's she supposed to get her children around? That's not the point that I'm addressing. What I am addressing is she cannot afford a car at all.
Designed for customers with poor credit. We're here to help, it says on the company's website. But that help, we learned, can come at a steep price. Our joint investigation with ProPublica found that Exeter borrowers, already struggling financially, often say they are surprised to learn they owe thousands of dollars more than they anticipated at the end of their loan. Those extra charges are a moneymaker for Exeter, but drive borrowers deeper into debt.
This is something I have learned about money. And it may seem obvious, but I think until we are either put in that situation, and we really have to live it, we don't get it. Borrowing more money when you already don't have money ends in disaster. Now, I know some people will think, well, I'm really broke right now, but if I get the car or the house, whatever. Yeah, people buy houses that they can't afford. But in this case, let's stick to a car because that's what this report is about. But I know I'm broke, but if I buy a car right now, then maybe down the road, I'll miraculously make enough money and I'll be able to actually afford the car. I do not believe that you should base your living standard on future income. In other words, to purchase something now that you cannot afford and to bank that in the future you'll be able to afford it. It is my years, 57-year-old experience, and through 2 bankruptcies and my own auto repossession in my early 30s, that's not a winning formula. It's really not. To sit and say, well, I'm going to get a car now, even though I can't afford it, but maybe down the road I can. It's not a winning formula because you're already starting behind the 8 ball. In other words, you're already financially behind. It's not like someone who starts with, let's just say here, okay, you have someone, they start with a car. They can actually afford the car. They can afford it. Their income allows them to comfortably afford the car. They make a little extra money and they can pay more towards the car, or they can choose to put that into a savings account. But when you're starting behind, okay, even if you get a pay raise down the road, you're only just getting up to the point where you could afford it. You're never going to get ahead. It's a horrible, horrible economic situation to be in. And like I said, I have to take back. She cannot afford the $15,000 car.
That's what happened to Patterson. She bought her Kia in 2017 with a sky-high interest rate of 25%.
Oh, she bought in 2017. Remember, the story ran 3 days ago. Oh, geez, 25%. This was in 2017. Imagine if she tried to buy it today. Oh my gosh. Yet you cannot improve your financial situation when you dig yourself further into a hole. It just doesn't work. And I know it becomes a tough question. People go, well, then how are you supposed to get around? City bus. I don't know. But what I do know and what I can tell you is buying a car at 25% interest is not going to work. See, all that's doing is band-aiding. And this is where, even though we haven't yet gotten into Exeter, okay, the company here, the loan sharking company, I'd like to probably call it, this is where people who are in really tight economic situations, it's lose-lose. You can't afford the vehicle because you don't make enough money. All right? And if you do try to get the vehicle, you're going to be paying just sky high interest. I have no answers on what she should do. I mean, except don't buy a $15,000 car, buy a $5,000 car. It's hard because, it's like, I'm sure, and I'm not a mom, I'm not a mother, but, you're thinking, I'm a mom with 3 kids, I got to have something decent. I get it. I understand that part. But there are no easy answers to this. But I do know the answer is not to get further into debt and to go with a loan shark and company.
Financed by Exeter. The company charges the highest interest rates of any auto lender in the country, listed in publicly available data reviewed by ProPublica.
Check this graph. For those who can't see the screen, they're showing you a graph that shows you the median interest rates, the median being the middle number, okay, on interest. So the Exeter's at the very, very top. Wow.
I was just like, holy bejeez, I don't know if I can do this, but I need the car.
Now then, that's where the loan sharks have you. And just for legal purposes, when I say loan shark, I'm not necessarily referring to Exeter, although it is a commentary channel. I'm just sharing my thoughts, okay? This is how they get you. You need the car. But the problem is you can't afford the car. So what's the end result going to be? The end result is going, and like I said, I haven't seen this whole video, but the end result's going to be you're going to wind up turning that car over, or you're going to pay such a sky-high, ridiculous price on it. And they're going to lock you into it for years. I bought my Toyota Corolla Hybrid about 5 months ago. I have respectively about 4 payments left on it. Okay, that's a car I can afford. So I have a total of 8 payments is basically what I'm making. A total of 8 payments that I've made I think I've made about 4 or 5 so far. It's due to be paid off by the end of November. But that was through a reputable company. Okay, a very reputable company, and my interest rate is 4.5% with a credit score above 800. It really is true that the lower your economic situation, meaning the more you struggle, not just, and of course it's shown in your credit score as well, you really pay sky high. And that's a different topic as to whether or not that's fair, because it goes into, well, they're risky, yada yada. I get it, but she's paying dearly.
Patterson soon fell behind on payments. When she called Exeter, a representative offered her what seemed to be a lifeline, a loan modification known as an extension, which would give her a short-term break from having to make any payments. She said she agreed on the spot.
Okay, so Exeter offers her, hey, you know what? We know you're getting behind, so we'll help extend your payment. So I assume that's something like, for example, instead of paying it in 5 years, we'll extend it another 5 months, or even a year.
What did you know about what an extension would mean?
No knowledge. That rep did not explain to me what the extension meant. They just said it was no problem.
Any of you ever heard of an extension? I haven't ever heard of it. I've never heard of an extension. The minute you hear a rep tell you, oh, no problem, we could solve it, you need to have red flags going off, especially if you know you are broke. Especially if you know you are a high-risk client. It's hard for us to want to admit that we're high risk, okay? But come on, folks. You got to be honest. You're sitting at 400 or 500, okay? Maybe even the low 600s. You kind of risky. And the first thing you have to do is if you're going to control your money, you have to be willing to admit where your financial picture is at. When I had bankruptcies, yeah, I was freaking high risk, sure. Just been bankrupt. When I had an auto repossession, of course I was high risk. But it's hard for us to want to admit that we're high risk, because nobody wants to look at the mirror and go, yep, I'm high risk, all right. But yet, if you are going to protect yourself financially, you have got to understand where you fall along that credit score line. I'm not saying the credit score is the end all be all, but what I am saying is if you are going to protect your finances and protect your family, your loved ones, your significant, whatever, if you're going to protect them, the first thing, in my opinion, one of the first things that you need to do is you need to honestly identify, honestly assess, where are you at in the credit game. Because if you know you are high risk, then you know right away, or you should know, or you will know after watching this channel, the loan sharks are after you. The loan sharks are swimming like, they're just swimming right around you, and you're fresh bait. When you know this, now you go in with an awareness that people who are not aware of their financial situation, or they're in denial about it, okay, you now go in knowing this. I'm thinking she was partly in denial about her actual financial situation. She knows it's bad, okay? But like I said, it's different. It's one thing to say, yeah, I'm behind on my car. But it's another thing to say, yeah, I'm behind on my car. Oh, and by the way, I'm a high-risk customer to lenders, to banks. But the ability to be able to admit that and to understand that can actually be your greatest protection, because you are now aware that people are out there to play you. They're out there to basically get your money at all costs.
We could take care of it. Let us put the payment toward the end of the loan term for you. And I said, really, it's that easy? And they're like, yeah, it's that easy.
What was that speech I just gave you? Okay? You got to be willing to admit, where are you? And when she heard it's that easy, you see, somebody like me with an 800 credit score, 700 or 700 above, anybody in that range too, even the 650 and up, we would be going, something's wrong here. Same thing with student loans, but that's another story, okay? But same thing with student loans. Oh, we'll just extend your student loans. Oh, okay, but what's the interest rate going to be? And remember, this is a desperate woman with 3 kids on $12 an hour.
3 former Exeter employees told us the company was quick to hand out extensions like these to struggling borrowers.
Kind of like student loan companies are quick to hand out forbearance because you're being charged interest on all of that. We would love to extend your student loan for another 5 years. We'd love to extend your car and give you an extension. I had never heard of an extension until I saw this video.
I wanted to walk away.
Claire Groves was one of the representatives on the other end of the line during calls with people like Jessica Patterson.
Why are they walking down the middle of the street? I mean, like all the places you could have filmed. No, let us film walking down the middle of the street. Hey, it is a commentary channel.
Beginning in 2019. She says even though they explained interest charges would continue to add up with an extension, they did not spell out the actual cost.
When they spell out the actual cost, people should go, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. But here's the problem. People in this lady's situation, the mother, not the person you're looking at on the screen, but the mother with 3 kids, my thought is, would she hear it? Even if they had spelled it out to her. If they had said to her, and I don't know what the numbers are, if they had said to her, ma'am, you're going to owe an extra $10,000 on this car. I'm making up the number, okay? To a mother with 3 kids who's being a secretary, would she have even heard them? I don't think she would have heard them. And you can darn well bet that the representatives, from legal all the way down to the person talking to you on the telephone, they know this. So they say just what has to be said to cover themselves legally. Did you know there's a higher interest rate and it's going to extend your payment? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. We've covered ourselves legally. See, we told her. But I do question, even if they had given her the numbers, and it might be a he said, she said, whether or not they did, even if they had, would she really have listened?
There was a spiel we had to give every time we gave an extension. You understand that this is what it would do.
Was that an accurate way to describe what an extension was?
No. Not in the sense of the long-term effects.
What was it not saying?
It wasn't saying that there was the potential of thousands of dollars being due at the end of the loan.
Thousands of dollars due. Thousands. You know, this is eerily like student loan forbearance, deferment. Okay? Thousands of dollars due.
The extension simply pushed payments down the road, she told us, but consumers would still have to pay every bit of the loan, plus extra interest.
Yes. And if you are a consumer and you don't think you're going to have to do that, well, you know now, okay? And it's really like this, folks. You're really just taking the can and kicking it down the road. Okay? They might skip a month here or there for you, but you're kicking the can down the road, and the debt's just going to get higher. That's all that's going to happen.
She said extensions were one way she and her colleagues could earn bonuses by keeping loans from heading toward default, a claim Exeter denies.
They don't want you to go into default, because if you go into default, then that can lead to bankruptcy, and then the company gets nothing. All right? They want you instead to stay on the track of making payments, even if they have to extend you some ridiculous 5 years into the future above and beyond what you would have normally made. Always remember this, and trust me, family, okay? All right. I've been the broke person. Okay. Some days I still feel that way. All right. But I've been there. Okay. Always remember, just like with credit cards, the goal is not to have you go totally belly up and bankrupt. That doesn't benefit the company any. The goal is to have you losing sleepless nights and struggling to pay the overdraft fees, the over limit fees, the minimum fees. That's the whole goal. That's where they make the profit. And here we have the company Exeter, okay? Exeter doesn't want you to go default belly up, because it would lead to probably auto repossession, bankruptcy, yada, yada. So I want you to remember this, just like it says on the screen, okay, like they just said. There's a bonus to the person on the telephone if you will extend it. There is a lot of money to be made by people who don't have any money. So the rep that you're talking to on the phone, the rep that this lady was talking to on the phone, oh, yes, ma'am, you know what? We know you can't possibly afford the car. They knew you couldn't afford the car when they gave you the car, because they gave it to you at 25% interest. That's what she's paying on this. They already knew she couldn't afford it. They knew she would be in denial about how much it is. And that's why she went ahead and just signed off on the car. They knew that the extension program would have to come along to, quote unquote, rescue her. There is no mathematical way. The math does not work to be a single mom with 3 kids on $12 an hour. The math ain't mathin'. It is our job as consumers to make sure that the math works before we make the purchase. Because if we don't check, I guarantee it to you, the car company, finance company that you're buying it from, they've already done the numbers. They already know where their profit is in you. Their profit isn't even in the purchase price of the vehicle. Their future profit, and possibly even more profit, it's in the extension program. You have to know your numbers before you go in. You must be one step smarter, or at least one more step motivated, okay? And to find out questions, answers, and all of that stuff before you go in. Our financial desperation of just simply, I just need this vehicle. You can bet that's where she was at, and you can bet she signed off whatever it is. And when you're at that point in your life, all you want to hear is, we can help you. Never mind, that's a loan shark talking in your ear, who's getting a bonus off of helping you, right?
The company declined our request for an on-camera interview, but
Of course they did.
in a statement, Exeter wrote it has no reason to mislead customers, and that its extension process, which includes the scripts read by agents like Claire Groves, has evolved since 2019, partly because of continuing guidance from regulators.
Stop. I'm going to back that up. Just everybody just pause. Hold on. Okay. There's a reason I'm backing this screen up. Okay. I'm going to read something because I'm aware that not everybody is looking at the screen. Some people listen to this when they're driving, exercising, at work. So I'm going to read this one sentence again. Okay. So Exeter here, the company that's offering the extension, okay, but refuses to go on camera, okay, writes in this letter, and I'm going to read this one sentence again. Exeter's extension process, which includes both the written agreement and the scripts for customer-facing agents, has evolved since 2019 because of continuing guidance from regulators. By saying evolved, what Exeter is trying to say is, since, I'm going to put it in real layman's terms, okay? Since 2019, Exeter has worked to get its legal act together because basically we're getting questioned and possibly sued, and we can't have this going on because it doesn't look good for business. So, well, we can't talk to you on camera because we don't like to look at the people we're screwing over. Just know that we are working hard with our legal team to fix some problems. Really what we're looking for are loopholes to continue screwing our customers over, but at least we can do it with a smiley face. That's really all that is saying. All right? It has evolved. Isn't that just a load of baloney? They're customer-facing agents. That simply means the phone rep. You see, it's this legalese, all right? And this isn't necessarily legalese, but it's a letter. But it's this type of stuff that they're handing to customers with, who are stressed out. We don't know how educated they are, although we know that debt has nothing to do with education level. Okay, it's just one factor, but it by no means is the only thing. If you make a really good income, then you must be really smart. Not necessarily. We all know this, okay? I'm living proof. I had 2 master's degrees and still went broke 2-3 times, all right? But this sort of thing, people, you've got to be aware of when you're getting used. Oh, I gotta push the button.
The extension process, which includes the scripts read by agents like Claire Groves, has evolved since 2019, partly because of continuing guidance from regulators. But when we brought our questions to the top lending regulator in the nation, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, the agency would not say whether Exeter's extension practices align with its guidance.
So in other words, we're now going to go into the office of the Consumer Protection, CPB or something like that, and they can't even talk about it. You wonder why people when you wonder why you get screwed over, because the loan sharking companies that are doing it, they know that federal regulators, state regulators, they're not going to do anything. Money talks. Bribes talk. I'm not saying by this commentary that Exeter is bribing. So just for legal purposes.
What I can say is the CFPB doesn't give like a seal of approval, right? So that's not something that the CFPB generally does.
In other words, I think it's called CFPB Protection Bureau, okay? They don't say this company is good, this company is bad, don't do business with this company. They don't do that. They basically sit and give interviews and look as lost as this guy is.
Chris Kukla is Senior Program Manager for Auto Finance at the CFPB. He says extensions can be a good thing for consumers when done right.
I don't see how an extension can be a good thing. The only way I could see an extension, the vehicle extension, where you say you can't pay on your vehicle, so we're going to extend the payments into the future to help you out. I would think the only people that would help would be people who don't need the extension. Think about it. You're dealing with people who don't have money to begin with. That is the group of people that the extensions are for. So when someone says, oh, but if done right, they can be great, you would really have to lay out a map for me to understand how that can be good. Because again, like I said, beginning of this video, I don't like to plan future dollars. I don't like to make an income for today based on, well, down the road, I expect to make such and such dollar amount.
We do need accommodations for borrowers who are facing a short-term financial emergency or a change in their circumstances.
I'm going to stop him. He said short-term financial emergency. This is very different than what this lady is in. This lady is not in a short-term financial emergency. A short-term financial emergency to me, short-term, just my interpretation, really short-term, 90 days or less, 3 months. Maybe a little bit longer, short-term is 6 months. And absolute most that I could even think of as short-term is a year, and I think that's pushing it. To me, short-term is, 90, 180 days, right around there, 3-6 months. That's short term. Here's why I don't think her situation is short term. She's got 3 little kids to raise. This is not a short term problem. She's in a very low income job. These are not short term problems. So when he says, no disrespect to him, but when he says, well, we need a way to help customers in short term problems, she doesn't have a short term problem. She has a long term, ongoing debt, overspending lifestyle problem.
We're going to pay close attention to what the terms of those accommodations or modifications or extensions look like and make sure that consumers are being treated fairly.
They ain't going to do squat. Just know that. That's like when, hey, maybe I'll do a payday loan thing. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a commentary on payday loan documentaries. But it's kind of like payday loans, where you go in, you get a cash advance. Payday loans have been allowed to run amok for years, just doing whatever the heck they want. Why? Because the government's like, well, we're going to keep an eye out on what the payday loans are doing for people. We understand they're lending money at 200%. We're just going to keep watching them. That's like I'm standing on the side of the ocean edge and going, yep, I see the sharks, that being the payday loan company. Yep, I see the sharks are in the water. Yep, they're eating up the people. Well, we're keeping a close eye on it, but don't ask us to jump in and rescue anybody.
But a large number of delinquencies can be a sign that they're not. ProPublica's analysis found that more than half of Exeter's subprime borrowers are 3 or more payments behind schedule. No other lender in the data comes close to that degree.
Dang, look at this chart. For those, if you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel. Just listen, all right? Oh my gosh. Okay, so 3 or more payments behind. Wow, 52% of Exeter's customers are 3 or more payments behind. But are we surprised? When you are offered a car loan at 25%, when they tell you, oh, you're broke, it's going to be so easy for us to solve this problem, you got to know you're going to get screwed. And you also have to be willing to admit, like I said, preferably before you go in to buy the car, you are a high-risk customer. You need to stand in the mirror and you need to look at yourself and say, I am a high-risk customer. I have a credit score of 500 something. I didn't even know credit scores could go down to 300, but apparently they can, okay? I need to be looking over my shoulder constantly as to who's going to try to screw me over.
Of delinquency.
Is it alarming to you that more than half of a company's borrowers are on the verge of default?
So I can't comment on the specifics of a particular lender's practices.
Generally speaking, is it alarming that you would have the majority of any lender's borrowers on the verge of default?
So we pay close attention to key metrics in the market. Certainly, borrowers falling behind, delinquency rates are one. Default rates are another, right?
And remember, the company doesn't want you to go in default, because once you're in default, it starts leading towards bankruptcy, and then they just basically wasted all their time on you because everything's wiped out. And always remember, family, you can't go bankrupt on student loans. All right? Just my public service announcement reminder.
If consumers are starting to get into trouble in what is, by and large, a relatively strong economy, if we start to see borrowers starting to fall behind, we pay attention.
They pay attention, but they don't do squat. They do nothing legally. Are you following me here, family? Are you following me? They don't. You can sit and watch all you want. Nothing's actually being done.
When we repeatedly pressed him about whether his agency was paying specific attention to Exeter, he wouldn't say.
I can't tell you whether or not we are investigating or not investigating in a company. I can't tell you whether we are actively supervising or not supervising.
You can bet they're not supervising. I think that's safe to say. What do they get paid to do all day? I'd really like to know what this Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is getting paid to do. I'm sitting in front of my window and it's hot.
An entity. That doesn't mean that we're not paying attention to something.
After just 6 months at Exeter, Claire Groves quit her job in 2020, but told us she's still haunted by some of her calls with clients who had taken extensions.
Now that's some serious loan sharking. When you go home, I'm not saying she's the shark. When you work for a loan shark. When your employees go home haunted, I mean, that's some serious psychological ooh, 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 ooh.
How would people react when you would tell them, surprise, you owe thousands of dollars still?
Extremely upset. I mean, we had a suicide clause. Like, we had a whole.
Oh, I have to skip this little part. Okay, hold on. Unfortunately for YouTube, this cannot be brought up. So everybody just hold while I write down this. Yeah, we can't discuss this part. So I got to skip over it. So I'm just going to take it and jump over ever slightly. I apologize. It's a YouTube policy thing. All right, we're going to keep moving on. So just for the record, I had to skip over that part.
Patterson received 5 extensions, but still owed more than $12,000. Her fiance at the time.
Okay, 5 extensions. She can't afford a car. And people, like I said, people go, well, what's she supposed to do then? I don't have an answer. But I do know one thing. There's no question she cannot afford the car. $15,000 was too much car. That's the closest answer I can give. That was too much. Well, on the general plane of vehicles, it's not bad. It was too much.
And figured out she had already paid Exeter more than the sticker price of the car.
She had already paid, okay, with all the extensions and the interest and all that, she had already paid them more than the actual $15,000 that she owed on the car. She still owes them $12,000. This is going to wind up being something like a $35,000, $40,000 car. Probably at minimum, because think about it. She owed $15,000 on the car. She has all these extensions, all this interest at a ridiculous 25%. Okay, and they're saying she still, after making those payments or whatever, she still owes $12,000,
and still wasn't close to being done.
and that is the plan. That is the system. That's how it's rigged, and that is how it's designed.
You would give an Exeter a lot of money at this
Yeah.
point.
Kind of reminds you of student loan debt, right? Student loans. Oh, I've been paying on my student loans for 10 years. I've never missed a payment, and I owe more than when I started. Yeah. Because you never paid enough to get into the principal. That's the same situation she's in. People, when you get extensions and all of that stuff, or you get your payment dropped to way little, like they do in student loans, or they tell you, oh, just make a partial car payment. Guys, if you are not paying into the principal, the amount that the actual amount of the item, you're never gonna pay it off. It's only gonna lead to interest on the interest.
More money than maybe the car had even been worth.
And that's exactly what we figured too.
So
And that was the plan. And the Exeter already knew this when they gave her the extension. Always remember, when you are in financial straits and you're in shock because I can't believe the interest rate is this much, I can't believe I've been paying on it this long, the people who you did business with, they already knew it. They're not in shock. It's your job, as I said, to be one step smarter, to be one step more interested in your finances. The bankers are not going, oh my goodness, I'm just totally shocked. This mother of 3 on $12 an hour can't pay it, and she's here talking to us today. No, it's the plan. It's set in motion that way. You're just one alternator repair away from needing Exeter.
she decided to let the company repossess her Kia without a fight. She reported her experiences with Exeter to the Kansas Attorney General,
Anybody want to bet that the Kansas City Attorney General did squat too?
saying they are a predatory company. This company not only destroyed my credit, but gave me a loan I couldn't afford.
Okay, gave her a loan I couldn't afford. But we got to stop here. All right. They are a predatory company. I completely agree. Yep. They prey. All right. They got their team of lawyers, all of that stuff. They're mathematicians. We get that. This company not only destroyed my credit, but gave me a loan I couldn't afford. Now, we're going to do some tough love. We are analyzing here. Not to be critical, but we do need to learn, right? Who destroyed whose credit? Who accepted a loan that they couldn't afford? Let's think about that one for a while. She says they not only destroyed my credit, they gave me a loan I couldn't afford. I'm going to give you some tough love. It is not a company's job. It is not the banker's job to make sure your credit is good. It is not the banker's job to even make sure that you take on a loan you can afford. That's your job. It's your job to say, you know, I really want to protect my credit. I understand my financial situation, and I don't think this is going to be good for it, so I need to turn it down. I feel for her as far as, you know, dealing with a predatory company, but it is my belief that in the end, it's on her doorstep. The predatory company is not her mother, okay? So when she says they not only destroyed my credit, I again, tough love, family. I didn't know it was their job to protect your credit. I mean, really, is it the bank's job to protect your credit? Is it the bank's job to make sure you can afford the loan? I bought my car that I was just telling you, my Toyota Corolla Hybrid, okay? I purchased in April, beginning of May. I saved up about $9,000 for it first, and then I'm making big couple $1,000 a month payments towards the balance. It's down to $8,000. But I really wanted the Nissan Maxima. That's what I really wanted, and I could have had that sucker brand new, spanking off the lot, instead of taking on a brand new Corolla. My Corolla has like 6 miles on it because the cost of a new car, a new Corolla, and a used one was less than 5,000 miles. Excuse me, it's less than $5,000 difference, at least in this 2024 economy. But either way, I wanted a new car. That was a personal choice I wanted, so I made sure I had some money, saved up in advance. But let's just put out here, let's using her words, okay? They destroyed my credit. They gave me a loan I couldn't afford. If I had chosen to get the what is it? The Corolla, or what's the car? I can't even think. Think. It was the Altima. Okay, I think it's the Altima. If I had chosen, the Nissan, guys, I am totally lost. What is the car that I wanted? It's the Toyota Corolla and the Camry. Wrong car. That's what I want. The Camry. Okay, by Toyota. Hey, I'm an imperfect human being. Okay, so if I had chosen to get the Camry, which is the car that I really wanted, okay, by Toyota, whose fault would that have been? Instead of getting into a car that I could pay off in 8 months, I would have gotten into a car that I could have paid off in 2.5 years. It was a $40,000 car instead of a $26,000 car. It would have taken me 2.5 years to pay it off. Would that have been my car company's fault? Oh man, Carrie got into a $40,000 car. It lowered her credit limit. And then let's just say something happened down the road 1.5 years later and I couldn't afford the car. Is that my fault? Yeah. And the bank, we have to remember, folks, okay? The banks ain't looking out for you. The banks are looking out for their shareholders, their own bottom line. Gotta keep that in mind.
Word.
Right there.
Patterson's fiance is now her husband, and she has a new career as a real estate agent.
Oh, great. Not about the fiance part. Remember, this just ran 3 days ago. She has a new career as a real estate agent. What's real estate market look like right now, folks? Oh, tons of people seem to go into real estate when all else is lost in life. It's either real estate they seem to go into, or substitute teaching. It's just an observation. But think about, what is the real estate market like? I'm glad she has a fiance, hopefully turned husband. Well, like I said, this was just 3 days ago. But really, what's the real estate market like? She could still find herself averaging $12 an hour.
1, 2, 3. Ah!
Together, she told us they're working every...
I'm looking at that vehicle. That is too much vehicle when you're broke. Oh, and I understand, they probably have to get it with car seats and all of that stuff. Like I said, I don't have answers on how to solve their financial problem. All I can tell you is I see a financial problem.
Every day to dig themselves out of debt, but can now afford 2 vehicles with the help of a different lender.
Okay. Did anybody catch that at the end? Don't worry if you didn't catch it. I'll repeat it. So she now has a fiance, and now they drive 2 cars. If you had any pity for her? Do you still carry pity? So let's think about it. She's broke. One car, goes to this lender, gets an extension, okay, gives the car back. What does she turn around and do? She turns around with her fiance, and now they have 2 cars. Just something to think about. All right, folks. That's it for this episode. Don't forget, on Thursdays, we live stream Eastern Standard Time, typically around 6:15, 6:30. All right. You know the exact live stream time when I put it up in the thumbnail. All right. So anyways, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to all my awesome family members and subscribers here. And before you go, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'd love to have you join our family. All right, folks, my time is up, and so is yours. Happy Sunday night, everyone.